A horse is riding through the desert, its hooves are clattering and dust is flying, it is carrying someone. An officer asks his comrade, Sir Parson, if Lady Rayna is alive. The procession travels through the mines into the deserts where excavations are taking place, and the parson says that it is impossible for Lady Rayna to be alive. After 18 years, another empire found a man, a magician named Rayna Hart. With the help of Rayna's magic, the city was wiped off the face of the earth, and all that was left was ruins. But as Parson notes, Lady Rayna has exhausted all her life force. The riders stop and the officer points forward. The officer says that someone has entered the ruins. The parson says in amazement that this is impossible. There is no one there. They notice a purple-haired female figure and begin to ask how she got there. The figure turns very slowly. The face cannot be seen. The military asks who she is. The soldiers move closer to get a better look at the stranger's face. Before us is Lady Rayna Hart, the mage who destroyed the capital city and the main character of the story. Suddenly, Lady Rayna Hart's eyes widen, and she starts screaming that she is not Rayna. Later, sitting in luxurious chambers, the girl confesses to the readers that she is another girl who has been caught in the novel. She was reborn in a novel that is popular, The Garden of Vertugenia. In The Garden of Vertugenia, the protagonist defeated a tyrant who arrived from the neighboring capital. And then he teamed up with the main character, a beautiful girl. One of the heroic deeds of the novel is that he killed the Red Dragon. He recaptures the damned capital, and everything must end with a happy ending. The one who ended up in Rayna's body couldn't even imagine that he would be killed at the end of the novel. Her money was gone. The heroine does not understand why the writer Sada abandoned his creation. She writes something on a piece of paper and thinks that this is not the end of her troubles. The girl knows that Rayna, in whose body she found herself, died before the events of the novel began, and she wonders what is happening. She wonders how she ended up in the body of a character who died before the events of the original novel began. She only remembers the word protect and thinks about who to protect, the main character, but the novel was abandoned. New Rayna decides that she will follow the events of the novel and not change its branches much. She goes out onto the balcony and shouts about it. Parson is surprised by her antics. A few weeks later, we are shown a blurry banquet hall. Rayna's purple hair flashes among the guests and attracts various glances. Rayna charms everyone with her beauty and believes that once she is done with basic magic, she will return to her domain. In order to follow the plot, the newcomer decides to avoid the main characters. She decides to avoid especially the main villain, the fourth prince. In the novel, he was a real psychopath, and getting involved with him was more important than life. Rayna believes that he is now reliving his tragic backstory of becoming a villain. She looks out the window. The weather outside does not bode well for her. Rayna goes to the emperor and wonders what all this has to do with her. But as soon as she thought about this, something happened that was not part of her plans. There is a small black-haired child sitting in the bushes, hiding from someone. Rayna never thought that fate would bring her face to face with him, the mysterious hero. Rayna notices a glance from the bushes and decides to ignore the villain. The future villain stares at Rayna and she jokes to the maid that she met a cat. The maid looks fearfully at the bushes where the child is sitting. The maid asks Rayna not to go into the palace and she turns around. She says, "Isn't this one of the imperial palaces?" The maid tells her that the empress doesn't like it when someone appears in this part. The maid warns Rayna that if she crosses the line, she will be tied up and tortured, and then apologizes for violating her personal boundaries. A translucent slab appears in front of Rayna, and she wonders what it is. Rayna wonders why the system window only appeared now. Even though he was still a child, the fourth prince's life was filled with suffering, with servants spitting and hitting him. The boy, who could not stand up for himself, could not sleep because of the pain. Rayna realized that the system window was showing her information about the world around her, but she decided not to interfere. The system window continues that the child's life was full of darkness. Rayna's nerves are on edge, while the child hides behind a bush. Sometime later, Rayna is sitting in a luxurious office and doing something at the table. She eats the juicy meat that was brought to her, and she thinks that she was told about the tragic life of the tyrant of the book. She believes that it is better for her to ignore the events that happened to her. The system makes itself known again, telling him that his food was moldy bread, that the prince had never tasted hot and warm soup in his life. Raina sits at the table and thinks that this is too much, that the system does not allow her to live a normal life. Raina understands that no matter how tragic the prince's story is, he must eat properly. She quickly gets up from the table and the maid looks at her in surprise. Raina collects all the food that was on the table into the basket. She is full of determination. The maid asks where the lady is going, and Raina says to feed the cat. Emperor Vetugenia had 3 wives and 4 children. The second empress, a former dancer, dragged out her existence alone. The empress died early, and her beauty was reflected in her son, Kebenriak Heteroven. The emperor orders that the 4th prince be left with the empress. The empress, obediently carrying out the will of the king, is asked what she will do with the prince. She says it would be nice to house him in a simple palace. For Kebenriak, neglect and alienation became commonplace. When he was 8, he didn't understand what he had done to deserve all this. A sudden inspiration came to Kebenriak's mind while he was in the palace. He is a monster, as was written in the original novel of Vertugenia's Garden. An old book lying on the floor with his picture on it gave him the answer to the question of who he was. It dawned on him that he was a monster whose destiny was to eliminate the royal family. But one day his plans were not destined to come true when he was sitting in the garden. Suddenly Raina appears, not listening to her courtiers and saying that she is very busy. The boy tries to say something, but his mouth seems to be sealed by Raina's magic. Raina walks by and says that she will not get married at 18. She passes by a charming young man who likes her beauty. Kebenriak notes that Raina resembles a beautiful purple flower. He wanted to see her again and came to her the next day. He came again until Raina understood the author's intention, because of which she ended up in the book. And even after another day, she does not understand what she forgot, and Kebenriak is watching her. The maid asks Raina what she is looking at in the imperial garden. Raina says she thought there was a cat, so Kebenriak continues his surveillance. But one day, Raina comes into the garden with a pile of fragrant bread in a basket. The system tells her that the prince rubbed stale bread against the wall and chewed it. Raina begins to eat the sandwich that the maid made for her. Raina believes that the future tyrant looks more like a wild cat than a human. She says that she is full, but she still has a lot, and if she overeats, there will be problems. Raina decides to leave the bread here, as she believes that a fairy who grants wishes supposedly lives here. But her words are a game to lure the prince out of the bushes, who thinks that no one sees him. The next day, the basket is full not of bread, but of luxurious roses. Raina realizes that the crown prince left these beautiful flowers for her as a gift. Raina thinks he put them in her basket as a thank you for the food. Raina understands that there is still a week and she is going home. What flowers can there be? She decided to continue feeding him, and 5 days later the whole house was covered in flowers. Raina carries the basket to the place where she met the prince. She quickly hides behind a tree and watches the actions of the future tyrant. The prince puts even more beautiful flowers into the basket than before. Observant Raina notices that the prince is injured somewhere. But he finally found a flower that looked like that fairy, Raina. Raina turns around and thinks that at 8 years old, a prince still needs to be carried in one's arms. She takes the prince by surprise when she emerges from behind a tree. The prince dropped the basket out of fear, and the flowers are now lying on the grass. Raina believes that she is a monster who pretends to bring flowers to a fairy. The boy covers himself with his hands and begs Raina not to hit him. Raina approaches and begins to heal the youth, who is in shock. Raina is reflected in the boy's eyes. He looks at her with gratitude. The future villain reminds Raina of a rare breed of cat. She doesn't understand why they had to cram in tragedies instead of making him a rebellious prince. Raina opens the basket and tells the boy that he has powerful medicine in front of him. She shows him colourful bubbles and tells him to use them if he gets sick. Kebenriak looks at the chest and thinks that they smell nice. Kebenriak compares Raina to a fairy and is pleased with the thought that she helped him. Suddenly someone comes through the door, someone very scary. This someone turns to the prince and asks if he is sleeping. The image shows a majestic castle with high towers and exquisite architectural details. Raina talks to the doctor, who says he has brought a more effective medicine. He says that if needed, he can prepare an elixir. He asks if it would not be more efficient to use magic to make the elixir. Lady Raina believes that Quendiak will become a powerful sorcerer. Thinking about the prince, Lady Raina smiles sweetly as she looks at him. The healer is surprised that Lady Raina smiles very sweetly. Lady Raina says goodbye to the doctor, and he also says goodbye to her. Raina leaves in a great mood, believing that everything will be fine. She believes that it is better to leave the elixir that heals wounds at night. The image shows a view of an old big house or castle at night. Raina walks through the corridors of the castle and wonders if the prince is sleeping in his chambers. Suddenly, Raina stops. She hears the sounds of water. She hears the voices of the maids from the room she is heading to. The maids mock the prince. One adds cold water, the other hot. They pour water on the poor boy, who cowers under their torture. Raina is horrified by what happened to the prince, and she doesn't know how to help him. She remembers that he must have experienced a tragic childhood. For the prince, cruelty and neglect were commonplace. The heroine bursts into the room where the prince is being bathed and tortured. The maid looks at Raina in surprise as she bursts into the room. The two heroes look at each other, examining and understanding. Raina is furious. She is surrounded by strong magic, and the maids are scared. Quendriak looks at Raina and tries to stop her. The image shows a prince, a young boy with black hair and light blue eyes. Raina leans over the prince. She realizes that he knew her before. But Kebenriak is a typical boy who has never known affection, so Raina hugs him. Kebenriak asks why she is crying, and Raina says she is sorry. Raina decides to reach the end of the novel so that the characters, including the main villain of the story, are happy. Raina sits in the living room and drinks tea with His Majesty the Emperor. Before us is Emperor Haenos Getroen, who asks her about the reward. The Emperor asks the heroine if she thinks about the reward. Her hand trembles, and she puts the cup down on the table, looking at him. There are two empires in this world. 70 years ago, two sons started a war, deciding to destroy each other. As a result, one kingdom remained from the two, which illuminated the country with one light. And all this for the sake of Haenos's dream, who decided to make it come true at any cost. The Emperor is thinking about how he can retain such a talent as Raina. The Emperor informs her of his decision to keep her at court. Raina shocks the Emperor with her decision to take the prince's training as a reward. The Emperor is surprised by her decision and remembers his son. Before this meeting, the maid informed him of Raina's actions. The Emperor believes that he has forgotten about the existence of the child that the dancer gave birth to. The Emperor laughs when he sees Raina's confusion. The Emperor says that his maids ran away and told of Raina's deeds. He says that the maid ran away and left things as if she had never been there. The Emperor asks Raina if she killed the handmaidens. The Emperor says he is joking, and she understands that he was provoking her. Raina asks if she is unworthy of training the prince because she has dragon blood in her. The Emperor says it's good that no one heard their secret, which Raina's late teacher also knew. The girl does not understand why the Emperor behaves so arrogantly. She thinks that she needs to calm down and that her thoughts should be occupied with Kebenriak. The Emperor places a bottle in front of her and asks Raina if she knows what it is. The Emperor says that this vial was given to her by Raina's teacher, and it is for controlling the dragon blood in Raina. Raina realizes that the domination potion is standing in front of her. The Emperor offers her to drink this potion, and he will give her the prince as a gift. Raina looks at the bottle and wants to ask His Majesty about something. The system in front of Raina informs her of the Getroen rebellion, and that the Emperor will soon be beheaded. Raina says that she will not drink the potion that is in front of her. The prince stands in front of the table and looks at the flowers he gave Raina. The prince is surprised that Raina did not throw away the flowers he gave her. The prince thinks he should give Raina more flowers. His little hand reaches out to the flowers he gave Raina. His little hand reaches out for the flowers he gave Raina, and it curls into a tiny fist. He pulls his hand away because he is worried that his hand will ruin the flowers. Suddenly, the door to his room opens and he is ready to meet. The boy thinks that Raina has come and is ready to meet her. But no one comes through the door or into the room, and he is surprised. The boy thinks that Raina cannot enter the chambers because the door does not open. With great difficulty, the boy strains himself and opens the door. Servants appear before him and, with a gloomy expression on their faces, inform him that the emperor wants to see him. The servants bow to him and say that His Majesty sent them. We are shown a palace in which there is a bustle and servants are working outside. The maid informs the prince that His Majesty has ordered that his appearance be taken care of. The maid undresses the prince and tells him that there is no need to be afraid. The prince was frightened by the hot water that the servants offered him. The prince runs away, and the maids are shocked by his antics and run after him. The prince is afraid that he will be tortured again, and so he runs wherever his eyes look. Suddenly, the little prince crashes into the girl in front of him. Raina warns him to be careful. The prince is frightened and confused, and the maids ask him to return to the bathhouse. Raina asks him if he wants to go swimming first and then go with her. He agrees. Raina watches him as he runs away from her and runs away. Raina remembers what she told the emperor about knowing who he was and when he would die. The emperor accuses her of plotting to assassinate him. Raina convinces him that she has been given foresight and knows what will happen to him. The emperor asks her in amazement that she wants his life in exchange for the prince's life. She wonders who taught him how to blackmail in exchange for a child's life. Raina asks His Majesty to improve his treatment of the prince. She thinks that this way Kebenriak will be able to avoid becoming a tyrant. Raina believes that some of her words struck a chord with the emperor. She thinks that even the corridors are now clean and everything has changed. Suddenly someone calls her name and she stops. He is wearing a formal suit, a white shirt with a pleated collar, and a blue waistcoat with gold buttons, complemented by a blue bow tie to match. Raina looks at his suit in surprise and asks who we have here. The boy is initially frightened by the fact that she doesn't recognize him. He grabs his head in frustration, and Raina looks at him in surprise. On the photo shows a beautifully set table laden with food. Raina invites the future tyrant to the table and teaches him how to use a fork. The boy is having trouble mastering the fork. Raina begins to devour the food, showing the boy how to use a knife and fork. The system tells her that the child previously ate rice balls mixed with sand. The system is starting to irritate her, and she is already tired of it. Raina doesn't understand. She is indignant at the system and thinks about what she will have to go through now. Raina studies the system closely, and she thinks about what this time. Her students ask her again, and she thinks about what this time, but she can't be distracted. She trains magicians. The system tells us that Prince Tiernan constantly saw half-rotten potatoes for lunch. Tiernan Fargan is the protagonist of Vertugenia Gardens and the last prince of the Tunta Empire. After all, the great sorceress Raina did not destroy his homeland for nothing. 2 kingdoms fought for Vertugenia, a continent. Raina had a prophetic vision before the invasion. Above the capital of Tunta, there was a place where dragons lived. And when the dragon wakes up, he will rise and destroy the city. Raina realized this and lifted the capital into the air, making it fly. But this drained her strength, and in the novel she died. And with the fall of the capital, the country of Tiernan also fell into darkness. Looking at the system, Raina realizes that Tiernan's childhood was terrible, and the system wants her to interfere with his story. Raina believes that she has already interfered with the fate of the villain. If she interferes with Tiernan's story, she will turn the plot upside down. Raina decides not to interfere, which frightens the students. A prisoner overhears the guards' conversations about how to carry out a coup d'etat. He is quite young for a simple prisoner and remembers his past. The maid reassures the prince he was our prisoner. He must run to save himself. He survived, but didn't know what to do, and was captured by slave traders. The prince's determination is enviable. He is determined to save Tuntara. Suddenly, the door slams, and the slave traders tense up at the sound. Raina enters in a hood, and the merchants offer her a choice. She points to the prince, who is shocked by her choice of slave. The merchant is happy with the money Raina offers for the boy. The boy is taken to Raina, but Tiernan does not want to obey. Tiernan is thrown roughly to the floor, displeased with this treatment. They want to brand Tiernan as a slave, but he resists. Raina stops the slave traders and is given the key to the door. Raina takes the key and wants to quickly leave the prison. Tiernan follows her, the sun blinding his eyes, and he cannot look at them. Raina asks Tiernan if it's not low to treat food like that. Raina opens his shackles and helps him experience freedom. Tiernan doesn't understand why Raina gave him the sword she bought. She tells Tiernan that he is now about to taste freedom. The bag contains a Vertugenian citizen's ID card and the things necessary for survival in the country. Tiernan is horrified at the thought of being asked to take citizenship of an enemy country. Tiernan shows pride and does not want to accept anything from Raina. He knocks over the sword that Raina offers him. Raina raises her sword, and Tiernan says that he will accept nothing from his enemies. Raina offers him a sword, and he says he doesn't need it to survive. Tiernan asks who she is to suggest such a thing. She says the one who bought it. Raina disappears and says that they will meet in many years, and Tiernan shouts who she is. But Tiernan's response is only emptiness. Raina herself disappears. Tiernan swears that he will find her again someday. He packs his things and goes to conquer Vertugenia. He is full of enthusiasm. Raina is worried that the prince will find out that she is the one who destroyed his homeland. She casts a spell that is clearly a magical barrier. With her spell, Raina opens the prison doors and the slaves escape. The slave traders can't stop the slaves. The wind hits them in the face and a leaflet hits them. Raina looks at them and says that the wind will never calm down. As she leaves, Kebun Riak sits on the stairs all alone. Kebun Riak is glad when Raina is near him. Raina looks at Kebun Riak in surprise as he approaches her. Raina asks if Kebun Riak has nothing to say. Kebun Riak is pondering something and Raina is watching him off camera. A young servant approaches Kebun Riak, holding some kind of blanket. Kebun Riak says welcome and stops halfway. Raina teaches Kebun Riak to say welcome, and she will answer that she is home. He understands that where Raina is from, the phrases I'm home and welcome are important. Kebun Riak starts running around the floor and joyfully shouting welcome home. Raina looks at Kebun Riak and decides to ask him the necessary question. So she asks Kebun Riak if he would like to become her student. The action moves to the dining room, where Raina is eating with Kebun Riak. Raina invites Kebun Riak to become her student, and he is happy. Kebun Riak thinks he is a monster and says nothing to Raina. Raina asks if Kebun Riak has changed his mind about becoming her apprentice. Kebun Riak thinks that he cannot lie to Raina and he wants to be her student. He says it's great and looks forward to the classes with pleasure. Raina breathes a sigh of relief once he agrees. The Emperor says he expects her to raise the prince, and Raina is happy about this. She believes that Kebun Riak is now a replacement for the subjugation potion, and she says she understands. Raina believes that Kebun Riak is happy, Tiernan is not hungry, and everything is going according to her plan. Now she believes that she will be able to rest in the domain of Raina Hot. Raina asks Kebun Riak if he wants to go with her to her estate. The picture shows a cartoonish carriage pulled by a pair of black draft horses. Kebun Riak rides in a carriage and looks at the beauty of nature that surrounds him. Raina notes that Kebun Riak is happy and that she made the right choice to take the carriage instead of teleporting. Kebun Riak asks if Raina is afraid of monsters, and she looks at him in surprise. Raina says no, and she is stronger than he thinks. Raina, looking at the boy, is perplexed by how he is considered a monster. Suddenly, someone knocks on the carriage window, and Raina is distracted. The image shows a night campsite. 2 tents are visible. Raina strokes Kebun Riak's head, and she says that he is tired from the journey. Raina wants to go to bed, but suddenly she hears that the enemies have prepared an ambush. Raina runs out and sees the guards fighting with others in the fire. Raina wakes up Kebun Riak and shows him where the exit is. Raina prepares to use magic to save Kebun Riak, but Kebun Riak is kidnapped, and his captors believe that his time has come. One of the kidnappers tells us that the Empress gave the order to eliminate Kebun Riak and Raina. They believe that Raina must be sleeping soundly because of the sleeping pills. But as they run, a rock falls on them, blocking their path. Stones fell like hail and blocked the numerous paths of thieves. The boy's kidnappers recognize Raina's voice, which sounds nearby. Raina herself came to bring her student back. She says in a voice that isn't her own, "Is there really a child in their sack?" Raina looks at the kidnappers with anger and asks what is in the bag. The kidnappers look at her with fear and don't know what to say. One of the kidnappers says that Raina will regret getting in their way. The kidnappers are frightened when Raina begins to cast a spell, but at that very moment, the next kidnapper committed suicide, and Raina watches this calmly. One of them points a dagger at his stomach, realizing that he will die because of the witchcraft. Raina casts a spell and directs her power at the thieves. She is angry. Raina heads towards the exhausted Kebenriak, who lies unconscious. Kebenriak lies in the meadow, all tied up, and now salvation awaits him. Raina believes that Kebenriak is the main villain and is not destined to die. The system tells her that the Empress is behind the spies. Raina is outraged that the Empress sees Kebenriak as a threat. The remaining guards come to Raina's aid. Raina asks one of them to take care of Kebenriak. Guard, Mr. Parson has been worried about Rain for 14 years and can be trusted to save Kebenriak. Raina herself sets out to find the kidnapper. She tells them to wait for her and disappears into the blue light. The image shows the castle in the moonlight. The image shows several people kneeling in a room with luxurious interiors. The Empress is horrified by what she sees. All this is Raina's doing. Raina stands in the middle of the bloody hall, and she slowly approaches her. Raina asks if the people were sent by the Empress. The Empress, in a panic, says that she does not know the people who kidnapped Kebenriak. The noble lady with the Empress shouts at Raina to show respect to the Empress. Raina casts a spell, the wind blowing her purple hair. Raina casts a spell, and we are shown a magical pentagram. One of the people was lifted into the air by Raina's magic. The man raised up tells Raina that he was sent by the Emperor. The Empress screams that someone has set her up. Raina is furious. The royal family despises Kebenriak, and this infuriates her. Raina is horrified that Kebenriak is being sent to his death. Raina believes that Kebenriak will wait for the people to sincerely repent. We are shown the corpses of the people who came for Kebenriak. The Empress shouts at Raina to believe her. She did not send the kidnappers. Raina tells the Empress that she believes her, and she is surprised by her answer. Raina says that no matter what happens, none of them will be declared conspirators. Raina asks threateningly if she wants her to come back. And then Raina disappears, leaving the Empress and her favorite in bewilderment. The Empress and her friend do not understand what happened. They are scared. Kebenriak slowly comes to his senses, his eyelashes trembling. Kebenriak suddenly gets out of bed and wakes up in horror. He is woken up by Raina, and he is glad to see her back, but he also wants to know where they are. Kebenriak was glad to have Raina there, and he woke up happy. Kebenriak asks where they are, and she replies that they are in Haybeck, the capital. Raina thinks it would be best to sleep longer. Kebenriak thinks what could be better than hugging Raina. Raina hugs him softly, and Kebenriak clings tightly to her. He happily says that he loves Raina and wanted it to always be that way. We are shown a luxurious house, which is Raina's estate. Many note that her castle is rather modest for a sorceress. One of the soldiers turns and looks at the mansion. One of the soldiers says that Hebei is really a wonderful place. The old man in the picture asks if Hebei has fallen into decline. The parson asks where Lady Raina is. He needs to find out something from her. An old man appears and asks if Lady Raina is here. Suddenly, Lady Raina approaches the old man and the soldiers and asks if everything is okay. The old man bows to her and tells her to save him and the villagers. Raina is surprised and asks what the old man wants them to be saved from. Raina is in her office and says that they have an unexpected visitor while the old man talks about his problems. While Raina is thinking about how to cheer up the boy, the old man asks if she is listening. The old man insists that Raina personally inspect the lands, and she is shocked. An old man and a child come to Raina, and they wait to see if she will help. There is a child next to the old man who says that Raina is quite the warrior. We are shown the horrors of war that a child experienced, as well as an old man. We are shown the horrors of war that a child experienced, as well as an old man. The prince cannot stand it and attacks Ren, the boy who came with the old man. The child asks if Ren is Rain's enemy, and he screams that he is scared. Raina casts a spell and tells Kebenriak that he is not her enemy. The boy innocently tells Raina that if he is not an enemy, why did he say nasty things about her? The maid runs up to the frightened Ren and asks him if everything is okay. Raina believes that the body's owner never abandoned the earth, but she was not a gentle ruler either. Raina is angry with the emperor and thinks that the knights that were needed did not come. The old man, the maid and Ren are dejected that the emperor did not keep his word. Raina suggests that they go together, and the old man is shocked. The old Raina didn't behave like this. Raina looks like she's ready to help survey the lands. While inspecting the lands, Raina repairs the bridge, improves the area, and restores destroyed houses. A girl approaches Parson and asks him to pass something on to Raina. They show us a cart with goods and they are looking for Raina. The guards talk to each other and wonder where she is. The guard doesn't know whether to take Prince Kebenriak with him or not. The image shows Kebenriak's face, full of thoughtfulness. Meanwhile, Raina is busy casting spells and restoring houses. Kebenriak wonders if he can be like Raina. The guard asks Kebenriak if the cart is comfortable, seeing his condition. He says that Lady Raina is truly amazing and the palace is full of mages of her level. The guard feels uneasy when Kebenriak says that he will not give up and will become a magician. He tries to cheer up the prince and says that he is lucky to have Raina as his teacher. The guard asks if he will learn magic from Lady Raina. But Kebenriak didn't even think that Raina would be his teacher, which he confesses to the guard. Kebenriak is afraid that Raina will hear that he is a monster. The guard cheerfully tells him that Raina will be upset if he refuses. Kebenriak asks if he is useless, and the guard recalls one incident. He recalls that before the attack, many officers discussed the fact that she took the prince out of pity. Suddenly, Raina looms over them and contradicts their words. She says that His Highness will become a great magician in the future. The guard cheerfully tells him that Lady Raina said so clearly. Kebenriak is confused by Raina's words and blushes at the information he received. Raina approaches them, looking tired after using magic. Kebenriak runs up to Raina and hugs her. She is surprised. He looks up, hesitant about what he wants to tell her. He looks down, hesitant about what he wants to tell her. He tells Raina with determination that he wants to study witchcraft. Raina laughs and tells him that if he wants to learn magic, then as much as he wants. Raina is tired, she's out of mana and she's barely holding on. Kebenriak says welcome to her, remembering what she taught him. She strokes Kebenriak's head and thinks that he shouldn't greet her if they entered together. They are greeted by old Harold, the butler, who is glad to see them back. There are only 6 servants in Viscount Hart's household, and she believes in keeping only those she can trust. The guards say that they have been ordered to remain in Hebei. The old butler is happy with the idea of collaborating with Raina, and she is happy that only trusted people remain. The butler asks the prince what his food preference is, and he says meat. The butler says if it's meat, then it's meat, and he'll be in the kitchen preparing it. Raina walks up the stairs, thinking that the butler is a good servant. Raina walks with the boy through the corridors of the castle, and they have fun together. She uses a cleansing spell that needs to be used after being outside. Raina, looking at the prince, understands that life at court has destroyed his self-confidence. She asks if he planned to boss her around forever. She then shows affection towards him, telling him that he needs to be better at using magic if he wants to please her. Kebenriak looks at her in surprise and asks about the joy. She can no longer restrain herself and hugs him tightly. She tells him that he needs to leave indifference behind, and one day he won't be alone. A month later, in the royal castle, rising majestically, we are shown Kebenriak, who is able to create fire. Kebenriak worries that the magic he has created is too small. Raina creates fire magic, which impresses the prince. She freezes her student's flame into ice, wanting to save her. Then she tells her student to read a book on magic. She gives him a book so that he can read the book and she will come back. Raina leaves and she is proud of her student's success. Kebenriak says that he will wait for Raina and that she should take care of herself. Raina meets with the elder and she asks him about the state of the village. She sees people in front of her, who are refugees. Raina's gaze stops on someone in the crowd. This is a small red-haired girl, clinging fearfully to her mother. The system tells her about Kin, a girl posing as a knight, and who in the future arrives at the palace to see the prince. Kin is a future female knight who is an ally of Kebenriak in the War of the Kingdoms. Kin was a knight apprentice, and she met Kebenriak completely by chance. Intrigued by his magic, she began to help him, and soon became the prince's right hand. Raina is determined to rewrite the history of Prince Kebenriak. Raina is surprised to note that the original Keen is different from this one. Just in case, she asks the elder again what the girl's name is. She is surprised and asks the elder if her father died in the war. Raina notices some serious deviations from the plot and decides to check on the rest of the characters. She understands that she needs to minimize deviations from the plot, and the elder asks what happened. She tells him if there is enough space in Hebei and asks him to leave them. She says that many children have lost their families and need shelter. She points at Kin and says that she will take this girl with her. Kin is clearly frightened by her decision to take her with her. Meanwhile, Kebenriak sits on the steps of the palace and thinks about something. A security guard approaches him and asks if he has done his homework. The guard was glad that the prince answered him clearly and did not ignore him. Raina literally hovers above the steps of the castle, and she smoothly descends towards them. She asks Kebenriak if he has done his homework, and he tells her he is welcome. Suddenly, Kebenriak notices a red-haired girl behind Raina. Raina says that Keen will be living with them from now on. Raina's decision to take Keen on as an apprentice surprises him. We are shown the palace against the backdrop of a sunset that is simply beautiful. The maids clean the castle, and Raina wonders where Kebenriak is. The guards inform her that they have found Kebenriak. Raina believes that she rushed things and is now to blame for Kebenriak's disappearance. Raina remembers that in the original novel, Kebenriak met Keen after making a pact with the demon, but the events of the novel were distorted. Raina asks if Keen has been fed since Kebenriak has not been found. Raina says she will wait for Kebenriak, but Kin remains silent. Kin remembers all the elder's instructions and wonders why the mistress took her as a student. Raina approaches her and asks if she likes the food. Raina believes that Kebenriak only eats meat and is glad that at least one child is not capricious. Keen is surprised when Raina leaves and waits for her to eat. Keen asks, surprised and timid, if Raina has eaten. Raina says she will eat, but she has a dinner meeting. Then we are shown a closet whose doors are ready to open. Behind the doors is Kebenriak, huddled in a ball, crying that the heroine's name is Kin. He thinks that she is beautiful and bright like a rose and has many more virtues than he does. He imagines with horror the scene where Madame Raina abandons him and calls him an abomination. Curled up in a laundry basket, Kebenriak is upset. Suddenly, Kebenriak hears Raina's voice behind the closet door. She is looking for him. He looks up, hoping that Raina has been looking for him all this time. Raina opens the doors and invites Kebenriak to dine with them. Kebenriak overhears Raina talking about how she needs to eat. She says that if he doesn't come back, she won't eat at all. Kebenriak shows up. He can't hear about the hungry Raina. Kebenriak tells her that she cannot starve and he will not allow it. Raina happily says that the fairy finally found it in the closet. She affectionately calls Kebenriak Kerry and says she was worried. She says that Kerry is a nickname for her most treasured student. Kebenriak asks her if he is really that dear to her. Raina believes that he hid for a reason. Raina tells the boy that Keen would like him to call her master himself. Kebenriak looks very confused after Raina's words. Kebenriak bows to her and calls her master. Raina realized that she had embarrassed the boy. Raina tells Kebenriak to get out, but he is confused. Kebenriak tells Raina that she just used magic. She says that yes, he is right. And then she cheerfully tells him that she's going to go eat. She's hungry as a wolf. Kebenriak agrees with her and he smiles back at her. But they had a long way to go. Kebenriak does not live up to Rose's expectations. Later, the action shifts to a magic lesson, where Raina explains that the magic heart produces and stores mana. She tells the children that a magician's potential depends on training, and that the magic heart gives control over a huge amount of magic. Kin asks if the more mana the stronger the magic. Kebenriak asks if he is as strong as the master, and Raina says yes. Raina says it's been 2 weeks since she brought Keen to the castle. Thanks to the first student, Kin feels a spirit of competition, and this contributes to a good atmosphere in the classroom. Raina reads about how a magic circle helps cast spells. Kebenriak asks her if having a magical heart means he is a wizard. Raina says that soon Kin will have a magical heart too. Kebenriak asks if she has a magic circle. Raina doesn't know what to say. She answers their question by reading a book. When Parson asks where Raina is, the guard replies that he was asked to keep an eye on them. Parson asks if Keen and Kebenriak have become friends. Kin is the first to contact Kebenriak to establish a friendship, but nothing comes of it. Kebenriak looks into the distance and doesn't notice Kin at all. Raina says that she is already on the 8th circle of magic. Kebenriak rests with the thought that the wizard is stronger than the dragon. Kebenriak believes that Raina will not abandon him if he has magic. Parson approaches him and asks if he and Keen have become friends and if everything is okay. The parson tells Kebenriak that Lady Raina asked him for help and he is glad. The parson says that the matter is simple and he will definitely cope. Kebenriak is determined to help Raina and asks what he should do. The parson smiles at him and is glad that the hero agrees to help. We are shown the palace from the inside. It is some kind of guest room. Raina thinks that there are no problems anymore and now is not the time to sleep. The only princess of the Vertigan Empire is Vivian Asperada. At the age of 15, Vivian was in a car accident. Because of this, she fell into a sleep for 7 years, and now the story continues after her moment of coma. Kin's swordsmanship skills have disappeared. Could it be because of saving Kebenriak? If this is true, then this event could have changed Vivian's character. Sometimes it's worth checking whether the plot of a tragedy is going astray. The good news is that the prince's ID is enchanted, and he still uses the Vertigan document. Raina looks at Vivian carefully and then decides to leave. Suddenly, something catches Raina's attention, and she looks at it. The item that caught Raina's attention was a small bag lying on the dresser. In it, the heroine finds fruit skins, and she doesn't know what they are for. The system tells her that the fruit peel is a powerful sleeping pill, and Raina wonders why it is by Vivian's bed. The door to the room opens with an intimate creak, and there is someone there. Raina panics at the thought that someone will notice her and looks for an escape route. The door opens and a noble lady enters the room. A mysterious girl of about 30 years old, and she is wearing a purple dress. The girl notices with surprise that the bag is on the floor. She goes to the window and rips the curtains off in a rage. Raina looks at the girl and recognizes her as Asperada Simone. She recently became a duchess, and she is Vivian's new stepmother. Raina wonders if it is really necessary to use a sleeping bag. Raina thinks it's alarming, but there's nothing she can do about it right now. Raina uses magic and she returns to the palace. Raina looks at the stairs and sees a dark figure on them. She realizes with cynicism that it looks like her request has been fulfilled. Raina heads to the castle and she opens one of the doors. Everywhere we are shown a kitchen covered in bloodstains. Raina is scared and looks at the kitchen in horror. Who could have done this? Kebenriak emerges to meet her and asks what happened. The parson stands there in a cute apron, contented and happy, and Raina scolds him. It turns out that the soldier understood Raina's request for meat for the prince in his own way. Raina is met by Keen, covered in flour, and Raina is horrified by the kitchen. All the culprits of the horror in the kitchen did not want Raina standing at the stove, cooking meat. Before them stands Dur, Raina's chef, who is to blame for the chaos. He says that after the second attempt, the children managed to create something tasty. The culinary creation that Dur shows looks completely inedible. Raina is horrified by Keen's culinary creations, especially the flower-shaped meat. On the purple meat, she notices a purple poison, quite a dangerous thing. The chef tells her that these are cookies dyed with cabbage, and Raina is horrified. Raina tells the children not to be upset. The food is quite tasty. Raina cheerfully invites the chef and parson to try the meat. She bitterly realizes that she has no choice but to eat meat. She eats the meat and Kin asks how it tastes. Raina says this is the taste for the next war. Raina lies that the meat tastes good and is glad that she is a quarter dragon. She never thought that her students would love magic so much. Raina smiles, and Parson and the chef don't understand how she ate so much meat. Raina gets sick when the children leave and she feels bad. The parson says that the prince managed to say something strange. The chef tells the children to apply the mold to the meat. The chef says to press on the meat mold. Parson says he didn't expect the young prince to be drawn to cooking. Raina watches what is happening carefully, and she remains silent. She is shocked by the prince's answer to Pizron's question, and he continues to cook. At night, we are shown a palace that looks like the Cathedral of Our Lady. The prince sleeps in his bed and suspects nothing. He hears Raina's voice, which wakes him up at night. Kebenriak asks Raina what she needed at night. Raina cheerfully asks him if he was asleep all this time. Kebenriak says he hasn't slept all this time and asks what she wants. Raina tells him that Keen is not awake yet and invites him to go for a walk. Raina and Kebenriak look at each other. It is not clear what they want. Raina dresses Kebenriak in a soft outfit using magic. Kebenriak realizes that she is opening the windows with magic. Raina picks up Kebenriak and he is shocked by her actions. Kebenriak panics when Raina jumps out of the window with him. Kebenriak closed his eyes. He was scared. He was afraid that they would break. Kebenriak looks down and they land. Something slaps. Raina tells Kebenriak that traveling on a bed is comfortable. Kebenriak and Raina fly over the sleeping city on a bed. Raina tells Kebenriak that the stars are especially beautiful tonight. Kebenriak says it's beautiful here, and Rain says the night isn't always bad. A minute later, the heroes return, and Kebenriak has a bad dream. Kebenriak dreams of something bad. He cries in his sleep. Raina wraps him in a blanket, and Kebenriak wakes up and looks at her. Raina asks Kebenriak if he knows that she is a remarkable sorceress. She says that she has enchanted the stars, and now they are watching Kebenriak. Kebenriak thinks about how the stars, especially the distant ones, can protect him. Raina says that during the day she will protect Kebenriak and not leave him. Kebenriak looks at her. In the blanket, he looks like an Eskimo. Raina thinks they are not far from where the dragon sleeps. Raina thinks they need to check the dragon's lair. She believes that it is time to say goodbye to the life of a landowner. We are shown the village where the heroes live 4 years later. The parson and the guards are looking at something, squinting in the sunlight. Thanks to the waterway opened by the Rhine, life in the village improved. Parson says they did a good job and the guards were also involved in the community. One of the guards notes that everything has improved for all the residents once their everyday problems have been solved. The guard says the decision has improved life for the peasants, but he has a question. When will they return home? 4 years and not a single order to return home. The Imperial Citizens Administration stopped responding to them. The guards want to use Raina as an excuse to leave the village. At this time, the parson looks at the orphanage built by Raina. It's still funny that Raina took on students, as the guards believe. Parson says she must accept those who still need it. We are shown the elder again, who brings Ren, a child with mana. He says that this child also has mana, and it was an excuse to take kin. And this boy also fought with Kebenriak before. He has nowhere else to go. He needs to be taken as an apprentice. The elder runs away, but the boy remains, and he treats them with hostility. The elder had brought the girl to her before and claimed that she had mana. And then he brought more children and said that they had the same thing. He brought the child again and said that the girl also has mana. Raina tells the headman to stop because there is a limit to how much she can patronize. The elder is in a panic. What to do with the children then, because the shelter is overcrowded? Raina says she doesn't care and let the elder take the children. The children look at Raina with pity, the eyes of the cat from Shrek in action. Raina says no, that means no, she won't take the children. The kids enhance the Shrek eyes effect so she can take it off. Raina says that this won't happen to her and she will build another shelter. The elder says that the children should listen to the mistress and they will learn magic in the orphanage. Raina is against it. The children cheerfully tell her that they are glad that she will teach them. She finally gave in. Children are Raina's Achilles heel. The guards watch Raina with amusement and her attempts to get rid of the children. Suddenly Kebenriak comes. He is dressed in a new suit. He is in full dress. The guard tells him that Lady Raina is waiting for him in the office. The guard says he's already gotten used to the fact that he perks up when Raina is mentioned. Another student approaches and it is Kin, who is looking forward to her apprenticeship. The guard yells at Keen, doesn't she attend classes anymore? Kin tells them that she doesn't think the path of a mage is for her. She runs away, and the guards wonder where she could have gone. The guards say that children's hearts are so difficult to understand. For Kebenriak, reaching the 3rd round is easy, but reaching the 4th is difficult. Raina says that to get to 8th place, you have to train hard. Kevin Riak hears a strange voice in his head that gets louder. He tries to cover his ears, but it doesn't help him get rid of the voice. Kevin Riak wonders when he can become a strong mage like Raina. Kevin Riak opens the door leading to the living room. Raina appears before him and tells him that he has found his master. Raina takes the letter and says that since they sleep in different beds, she feels offended. She says that her maturation has stopped because she is a quarter dragon. But Kevin Riak's growth cannot be stopped, so they will not be friends. The other main characters in the book have also changed. Rain feels sad thinking about how quickly time flies. Request to destroy the lizard lair in Kingbon Valley near Rocktem. In the original story, the lizardmen weren't any special monsters. She reads the request and then turns to Kevin Riak. She wonders if Kevin Riak is interested, as this is a problem for a third circle mage. She asks if he wants it, and Kevin Riak asks her permission. Raina says this is her student's first mission. Raina and Kevin Riak stand in front of the butler and talk about something. Raina asks, "What about Keen?" and the butler says she is in the shelter. Raina says that if she was interested, she would have been asked to go with her. But Kin is afraid of blood and spends all his time in the shelter. Fortunately, Kin has no skill in either magic or swordsmanship. Kin has no talent for fencing at all. She is progressing slowly, says Raina. Prison says that Keen can't even take a normal fencing stance. Raina thinks that Kin's magic is no better. She has reached the second circle. Raina believes that she doesn't need to force Kin to do anything special. The main thing is that she grows up caring and kind. But someone else succeeded in fencing. In the original, Parson is a cool swordsman, and Kerry fights on equal terms with him. Raina wonders how it happened that the wild kitten grew so big. Kevin Riak says he's ready to go deal with the lizards. Raina instructs him that she will not help, he will do everything himself. Then they disappear in a pillar of red light and move on to the battlefield. Kevin Riak goes on the attack to fight the monsters. Raina thinks her student is doing a good job of dealing with the lizard men. But why is Kevin Riak so sad and angry? Suddenly, Raina hears the sound of hooves and is distracted by it. She suddenly sees serious military men eating in their direction. The commander of the Imperial Knights is Dressherd, a very formidable fellow. He threatens to inform that Raina's prediction was wrong and the Emperor is in critical condition. Raina says that the Emperor will die in 19 years. The commander informs her that the Emperor has ordered her to return to the palace. Dressherd says that this is an order for a long departure. Meanwhile, Kevin Riak fights the monsters with all his might. He thinks that it is not enough for him because he wants to reach the fourth circle faster. The lizard is ready to attack Kevin Riak because he wants to eat. But before that, the lizard points to something, so Kevin Riak looks at what? People are trapped. Is the lizard really threatening their lives? Kevin Riak sighs and thinks about something, how to stop the lizard. He creates a huge magic spell that is ready to activate at any moment. The monster dies from the blow dealt to it by Kevin Riak. Kevin Riak appears before the inhabitants and looks at them. Kevin Riak informs them that people from their village are waiting for them. People bow to him and are ready to leave the lizardmen. Kevin Riak notices that Raina is still watching them. He understands that she came for him, and with her are some guards. Dressherd sits and waits for her reaction to the message from them. Dressherd is suddenly attacked by Kevin Riak, who jumps on him. Their swords touch and magic emanates from both of them. Dressherd is surprised that there is another person with the same talent. Dressherd bats the guy away with his sword, and Kevin Riak jumps back. Dressherd is surprised that she has a student who threatens him. In 5 or 6 years, he could become a threat to the imperial family. Raina says there is nothing suspicious about him. He is the commander of the knights. Dressherd says he is shocked that this is the fourth prince. Kevin Riak asks in surprise, but isn't he Raina's enemy? Raina says that he didn't intend to tear off any of his limbs and that this is really the first time he's met knights. Kevin Riak says that this is the first time he has met knights. She believes that the knights didn't even give Kevin Riak a glance. The knights dismount from their horses and they are clearly discussing something. Dressherd greets the fourth son of Getroen. The knights greet the fourth son of Getroen. This means that the Emperor's health is in danger because of the prediction. Well, of course, Raina is not in the mood, but she has to go. People are happy about the arrival of their children. Reishi says that this is the merit of her student. Raina says that it's all thanks to Kevenriak. He cleared out the lizard men. Surprised people believe that Kebenriak is capable of this. One of the villagers gives Kebenriak a bag of gratitude from the villagers. Kebenriak looks in surprise at the residents who are grateful to him. Raina asks him what it's like to receive his first award he doesn't know. Raina is glad that her boy found a way to make money. Kebenriak believes that this is his first award and that he is far from ideal. What's even stronger is that you long for a palace, says the voice. Kebenriak thinks that he is hearing this voice or that there is something in the palace. Raina feels that she shouldn't talk about the palace in the boy's presence. Raina says she will be away for 3 days and her emperor is unwell. Kebenriak asks if he should go. Raina says that if he wants to, then he doesn't mind. She says that she will go herself, since it is not a fatal disease. Kebenriak is silent because he is unable to say anything. Kebenriak asks if you made a wish to the fairy. Raina doesn't know what to say, since she was pretending to feed a stray cat. Kebenriak asks if fairies exist and Raina is skeptical. Looking into Kebenriak's innocent eyes, Raina thinks that if she confesses, it will be dishonest. She thinks that if she lies, she will fall in Kebenriak's eyes. She lies and says that fairies exist with a cheerful smile. She mentally apologizes for the fact that the master's pride prevailed. Kebenriak believes that the voice belonged to a fairy from the palace. The action then takes place in the empire of Vitrunia. The guards are happy that they are arriving in the capital. Kebenriak puffs himself up and rolls his eyes. He's doing something nasty. The guards look at him and want to know why Kebenriak is sulking. The guards whisper that this has happened to Kebenriak before. One of the guards says he will take the carriage for pleasure. The parson asks if Lady Raina is okay, and she looks at him strangely. Raina raises her hand, a bracelet glittering on her wrist. An hour ago, Raina uses magic to move. The guards stop her, saying that they need to conduct a search. One of the guards asks for documents, and the other one tugs at him and says, "Doesn't he recognize Raina Hart?" Looking at her, the guards are shocked to see that it is Raina Hart in front of them. The parson is puzzled by what is wrong with the security guards at FES Control. One of the guards says he will take her hand. Raina is surprised. The guard puts some kind of bracelet or handcuff on her arm. Rain is told that third circle mages must wear a bracelet. Teleportation is prohibited in Xenia. Parson and Kebenriak are surprised that Raina agrees to be arrested. The bracelet suppresses magic in the city. Outside the city, magic is prohibited. Rain is told that the Emperor has approved this order. Raina says that when the Empress tried to kill Kerry, she introduced this law. If Raina breaks the bracelet, she's in big trouble. Raina thinks about how she can get around the law that her mentor came up with. If a hero like Raina starts to openly break the laws, she will be considered lower than others. Suddenly, the guard wants something from her and he asks for Raina. He asks if she is the guardian of Kebenriak, the fourth prince. Raina says he is her cousin, and the guard wearily lets them through. He is young, and there shouldn't be any problems with him, the guard decides, looking at Kebenriak. Raina believes that Kebenriak's fake ID allowed him to pass unnoticed. She addresses Kebenriak affectionately as a cousin, which confuses him. She asks why he is upset, and he says nothing. Raina asks if Kebenriak is lying, but she sees that he is upset about the bracelet. Kebenriak realizes that he is powerless against the guards. Prison restrains him, saying that the Empress's orders are not to be discussed. Dressherd greets the prince, kneeling before him. Kebenriak hears a voice in his head that tells him to go to the palace. He tells Raina that he doesn't like being addressed as a cousin. Raina thinks that Kebenriak is going through puberty, but agrees with him. We are shown the imperial palace of Vertugenia in all its glory. She is accompanied by a maid who just met them at the gate. The maid looks at Raina in surprise. She clearly wants something. The maid asks Raina why she did not arrive with the first division. Raina realizes that she used teleportation to send them to an uninhabited island. Raina defends herself by saying that the guards weren't very polite. The maid asks where the prince is, and Raina is surprised that she does not see Kebenriak. The maid is surprised. She did not know that the prince looked noble and not like a beast. Raina sternly asks if she really shows no respect for the prince she hasn't seen for so many years. The maid quickly corrects herself and greets the prince. The prince asks why she doesn't raise her head, and Raina tells him that he must give her permission. Kebenriak allows her to raise her head, and the maid does so. The maid tells Raina to follow her, and she agrees. Raina smiles and tells Kebenriak that she will be back soon. Raina says that if Kebenriak gets bored, he can play with these 3 officers. Parson asks Kebenriak something as Raina runs away. Kebenriak asks them to leave, and the officers are shocked by his decision. Kebenriak tells them that they are here as his guards. One of the guards tells him that he loves him, and Kebenriak replies in the negative. The parson is called to go too, and he watches the young guards with displeasure. Parson asks if Kebenriak will be okay, and he says yes. Kebenriak says yes, but he himself wants to know what kind of voice that is. The picture shows a large old building in the style of a European mansion or castle. The image shows a corner of an old stone building with massive walls and large windows with bars at the bottom. Kebenriak thinks this is the place where Raina made a wish to the fairy. Kebenriak believes that the owner of the voice is a fairy to whom Raina made a wish and asks to be stronger. In response to Kebenriak, there is silence, and he no longer hears the voice. Kebenriak screams. His voice is no longer heard, and someone answers him back. Before him is the Empress with her maids, who are not happy to see him. She tells him that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and Kebenriak doesn't recognize her. Kebenriak asks who she is, and the maid scolds him for it. The Empress sarcastically remarks that the insect has turned into a human. Meanwhile, Raina stands before the Emperor and waits for him to speak. Raina doesn't understand why the Emperor kicked everyone out and doesn't expect anything good. She tells the Emperor that she heard that he is incredibly ill. The Emperor says he didn't expect Raina to look like this. The Emperor reproaches Raina for not contacting him for 4 years, and she taunts him for wanting to organize a parent-teacher meeting. The Emperor tells her to do as she wishes. The system tells Raina that Kebenriak has seized power and placed the Emperor's crown on his head. Raina is surprised, and she wants to know what will happen now. The Emperor is clearly angry with her, and his words are not comforting to her. He asks her if she knows anything about dark magic. Raina tells him in no uncertain terms that dark magic is forbidden. Dark magic is addictive and captivates magicians. Raina asks if he has touched dark magic. The Emperor's eyes darken, and now his appearance resembles the face of a dead man. Raina tells him mockingly that he must have used the stone for magic. The Emperor tells her that she doesn't have much time and says that she must do something. Raina, looking at the Emperor, cannot understand what happened to him. A month ago, a wandering corpse of sinister appearance arrived in Senio. During the performance, the old actress presented the Emperor with a certain little thing. The Emperor thought the potion would relax him before bed, but it contained a cursed bottle. While he slept, the vial accumulated power to poison him. The ritual symbols at the bottom of the bottle are a form of black magic. Raina decides to examine the ruler, who is clearly ill. We are shown a gazebo in the style of the Lord of the Rings. Guests are sitting in the gazebo, and they are having dinner, talking about something. Kebenriak runs into the gazebo with the Empress. The guests rise from the table and stare at Kebenriak. The Empress says that Kebenriak was wandering around idle, so she took him. Kebenriak knows this is not true, but he doesn't want to ruin everything for Rain. The lady looks at Kebenriak and thinks that he is too similar to his father. Kebenriak greets the lady politely, but she scolds him for not knowing etiquette. The Empress orders Kebenriak to sit at the table. The guests mock Kenriak, saying there is no room for him. The Empress orders her youngest son to give way to Kebenriak. He stands in the way of Kebenriak, blocking his path. He places food in front of him and tells him to eat here. He says that the floor is more appropriate for Kebenriak and his position. Many of the servants giggle at the jokes of the Empress's youngest son. Kebenriak sits down on the floor and is ready to eat the food that was given to him from the floor. This angers the Empress and her entourage when Kebenriak begins to eat. The Empress's youngest son is angry. He was so hoping for a fight. The Empress thinks that Kebenriak has manners worthy of a vagabond. The Empress believes that Kebenriak has barely reached the basic level of magic. The Empress believes that she has overestimated Raina Hart and that she will not teach Kebenriak anything outstanding. We are shown the garden where the action takes place, and it is beautiful. The Empress says that Reina Hart herself never saw her parents and that she is an adopted daughter. Kebenriak listens to the Empress slander Reina's teacher. Dark magic surrounds him and moves onto the table of the Empress and the guests, causing the cups to shake. The Empress is horrified. How dare he do such a thing? And her son calls the guards. The handmaidens tremble at the sight of Kenriak, and dark magic consumes them. The Empress hears eerie sounds and voices. Dark magic surrounds them. Kebenriak slowly approaches them and tells them not to dare even insult him. And then he tells them not to dare insult his teacher. Reina temporarily leans over the king and heals him with magic. Reina says she will create an antidote since His Majesty did not use magic. Reina wonders why the Emperor needed to summon her if he could make the antidote himself. The Emperor says he will listen to Reina and pay her compensation. Reina says that Lingram mine will be enough for her. The Emperor is happily ready to part with the mine since the deposits in it have long been depleted. Reina is happy because she knows about the diamonds in the deposits of this mine. According to the plot, the main character Tiernan must open a mine in 8 years. The elder tells her that they have exhausted all their supplies. Reina proposes to His Majesty to draw up a contract for the mines. The Emperor thinks that she should be silenced, but the Viscountess thinks only of diamonds. He hands her a receipt. The Emperor put his signature on it. Reina believes that everything is going according to plan, and she will use resources wisely. Reina is glad that the negotiations were successful and is looking forward to victory. Reina believes that she was called to the palace very early. Reina believes that the Emperor is in deep trouble and his illness is spreading too quickly. Reina had never met such powerful warlocks before. Reina doesn't remember seeing warlocks of that level in the novel. Suddenly she stops, hearing people screaming outside the door. A mysterious and ominous figure stands with a crystal ball in a dark room. The ball in the hands of the mysterious figure shatters into pieces. The ball reflects Reina's figure, standing in the way of the dark figure. The cloaked figure believes that Reina must be eliminated to avoid any problems. The figure remembers that the woman in the ball was named Reina Hart. Reina walks through the corridors of the castle. She wants to know what's going on. Reina walks through the corridors of the castle. She believes that she has achieved her goal. Her next goal is the library. Reina knows that in the original novel there was a demon that haunts the library, and if she destroys it, then Kebenriak won't be a villain. Reina is irritated by the bracelet the guards put on her. Reina passes by a fat guard with an axe. Reina understands that if she teleports, it will be reported immediately. Reina shakes the guard's hand, telling him he did a great job and he's shocked. Reina discreetly places a bracelet on the guard with magic. The guard is screaming at the top of his lungs because Reina used magic and made a fool of him. We are shown a huge library in which a demon has awakened. The demon has long been living in the library and is waiting for its moment to devour the soul of the person who dared to make a contract with him. The name of this demonic charm is the magical book Zekard. The book is already anticipating that its next victim has arrived at the castle. A boy who will hate this world and curse it to its very core. Reina throws open the doors to the library, ready to fight. Reina Hart is worse than a demon, so she is more to be feared than the book. The book asks her how she knows about this place. Is she really a dragon too? The book screams that she is a human being and will make her regret her thwarted plans. But Reina doesn't give up so easily. She binds the book with magical chains. The book demon is terrified. His attempts to remove the shackles end in failure. Reina is puzzled why the seal didn't work, and the book screams that it wanted to die. Zekard is surprised that she knows so much about him, the demon of books. Reina casts a new spell, but she is wrong again. Zekard suffers. The book is desperate and calls Reina the mistress to make her leave. Reina asks with apprehension that the book wants her to sign a contract with it. She asks what she can trust in the book. Zekard replies that it is based on the love and trust between them. The wily Zekard thinks he's lost the boy, but a woman who deals with a book in cold blood is the best option. Zekard gives Reina a contract, but there isn't much information there, and Reina frowns. Reina takes a moment and tries to turn on her intuition to figure it out. Reina sternly tells Zekard that it's nice that her soul is included in the contract. The book is perplexed, and she expects to show her the information. The book shows Raina personal information about Kebenriak. The book tells her that her student has awakened as a fourth circle mage. Raina sternly asks the book what it means, and it repeats its answer. Raina decides to burn the book and releases purple flames. Raina teleports to the garden and is horrified by the news about Kebenriak. Raina is tense and looks ahead, expecting nothing. Raina finds her student with the Empress, ready to burn everything to hell. The system informs her that the Empress invited Kebenriak to humiliate him. Kebenriak couldn't stand it when they started insulting his master, Raina. Kebenriak was also called a monster, which finally finished him off. Kebenriak is overcome by dark forces and believes that he is a monster. Raina hugs him and tells him that he is not some kind of monster. Raina tells him that she is proud that Kebenriak has reached the fourth circle. Raina believes that the grimoire may be useful and will be of use to her and Kebenriak. Raina's eyes, like her whole being, seethe with draconic power. Raina yells at the Empress, standing up for Kebenriak, and she yells at her. The Empress orders Raina to shut up, but something hit the Empress in the face. It was Kebenriak. The Empress immediately orders her to be silent. Meanwhile, Raina praises Kebenriak for his use of magic. The Empress is shocked that no one is listening to her. She sternly tells the two to listen to her. She points to their hands and tells them that they are both without bracelets. The Empress decides to tell them about the fate of the magicians who were without bracelets. While the courtiers think that everything is fine, the Empress is furious. Raina tells Kebenriak that they will go back and he is happy. The checkpoint is some kind of Muslim fortress. Raina says that without the bracelets, they are now criminals. Raina remembers that the Empress ordered them both to get lost. The Emperor, horrified, asks if the Empress has ordered them to be expelled. The Empress reminds him that he entrusted her with the border issues 4 years ago. The real reason for this is Kebenriak, who is now free. Kebenriak looks at Raina's shackles and realizes that he failed to protect her. The Empress says that the boy looks like an unhappy worm. She says that if he is jealous, then let him try to take away her strength and power. The Empress tells Kebenriak that the crown will still shine on her son's head. Kebenriak decides that the Emperor's crown will be his. Raina asks Kebenriak what he's thinking about, and he wants to be honest with her. The parson asks if she's finished. Raina doesn't know what to say. The army commander informs them that from this day on the officers are suspended. The parson asks him to intercede for them, but he is determined not to do so. The commander asks Parson what they were doing all this time in Hebe, and he is confused. The parson thinks that he will be recruited by some mystical organization if he tells. The commander tells them that their answer is clear and orders them to leave. The guards ask Raina that they will serve her, and she understands everything. Raina hears the other guards whispering about her. In front of her stand children who are also her favorite students and who are indignant along with us. Raina tells them to do as they wish, and the guards are happy. The parson asks if Raina has money to support the officers. Raina replies yes. Parson thinks she will help him too, but Raina is determined not to. Raina says no and asks him not to take it personally. Raina predicts to Parson that he will become the commander of a scout squad. Parson is already looking forward to becoming a great commander of the First Order. Raina says that they need to return to Hebe, and everyone supports her. With the violet flame, she transports the heroes home, leaving Parson behind. An hour later, we are shown one of the towers of Hebe. Dresshard falls to the ground, he rolls on it, and he is not happy. Dresshard rises from the ground and calls out Raina's name with hatred. A guard approaches him and offers him a drink. The guard tells Dresshard that it is not a good idea to visit the Queen. Raina is sitting on the couch and Kebenriak is reading a book with her. Raina glances at Kebenriak through the book, but he doesn't see. Raina thinks that Kebenriak has grown up in these 4 years. Raina can't even imagine the food torture the prince was subjected to. Raina believes that the most important thing is to suppress Kerry's anger. She decides that she must stop Kebenriak, but she herself is worse than a demon. Raina thinks that creepy gifts will scare the Empress. Raina realized that the doll, an original creation of one of the alchemists who attacked her, was capable of crushing the Empress. Kebenriak notices that Raina looks happy. Raina notes that Kebenriak is going through adolescence. Kebenriak thinks that Rain would do better to return to the palace. Kebenriak invites Raina to return to the palace in Hebei. Raina cheerfully asks if he agrees to stay here in Hebei. Raina cuddles Kebenriak because he is too cute. Suddenly the door swings open and Keen bursts in, scared. Keen informs Raina that she has a talking book. Raina thinks she has tied up the book demon tightly so that it won't cause any trouble. Raina is not happy. The book has escaped and is now scaring Keen and the others. Raina asks Keen decisively where the book is, and Keen tells her. Raina asks Kebenriak to sit here and not touch the book. Keen also informs Raina that there are some pranksters in the castle, and she decides to take action. Meanwhile, Zikhart hums happily about how Raina failed to seal him. The book passes by her chambers and says that the castle is beautiful. Zikhart believes that the atmosphere should be diluted with screams and cries of horror. Suddenly, someone notices Zikhart and he stops. Dan and Ben catch the book and they decide to play with it. Zikhart doesn't like it. Zikhart is unhappy. The children call him weak and say that he can't beat them. Zikhart decides to figure it out and starts crying theatrically, appealing to the pity of Raina's students. Zikhart says that he is a pathetic book, and if they hit him harder, he will fall apart. Dan and Ben don't know what to do with the mysterious book demon. Dan conjures up a tiger's paw and decides to save the book. He picks the lock on Zikhart with his tiger paw. Zikhart immediately shows his power to the children of Raina. But suddenly Zikhart is doused with the vial that cursed the emperor. Zikhart winces and angrily asks who dared to do this to him. Raina stands in front of Zikhart, clearly displeased with him. Raina doesn't believe the students' stories that they were just having fun. Dan and Ben wanted to surprise Raina with a book as a gift, since last time they brought lizards and cicadas. Raina tells them that she already has enough of their junk and doesn't need to wear anything new. The book justifies itself to Renya, saying that they were the ones who attacked first. Raina grabs the children and tells them she couldn't have done it without them. Raina angrily says that she needs the book and it looks very scary. Raina asks to take the children to the orphanage when Keen and Kebenriak arrive. Kebenriak clearly wanted to go with Raina. Keen asks him about it. The children leave with Kebenriak and Kin, and Raina watches them go. Raina holds the book menacingly and asks how he got out of the dimensional vault. Zikhart tells her that he is smart enough to get out, and he is a book lord. Raina stuffs it back into the bag-like dimensional storage. Ren looks at some book on magic standing on the shelf. Raina looks at the bottle, knowing it is a domination potion. The connection suddenly began to affect Zikhart, and this causes him problems. Zikhart is upset and unhappy. He has become Raina's slave forever. Zikhart shouts that he will complain because he has unpaid work, and Raina thinks about it. Raina says that Zikhart is essentially a magical encyclopedia, and using it for free is unacceptable. Raina threatens the book that if it throws something away, it will be worse for her. Raina says that today is an important day, and she has been preparing for this holiday for a very long time. They show us the mill and tell us that the heroes had to leave because of a conflict with the Empress. Raina decided to register Kebenriak with the Association of Mages. The children greet Raina joyfully, and they are ready to celebrate. Jasmine and Mabel argue about whether a cake is necessary for such an event. Ren cheerfully asks if the stars are necessary and is told he has terrible taste. Raina laughs happily as she watches the children and the preparations for the party. She and the children decide to finish preparing for the holiday before Kebenriak arrives. That same night we are shown the mill, and it is beautiful in the night stars. Dan has activated his tiger mode and tells Raina that she simply has to play with him. Mabel tells him that Raina hasn't finished her tea yet and has no time to play with him. The children argue with her about the fact that Raina has already played daughters, mothers with girls. Raina believes that after tea it is necessary to go shopping, and the children are delighted. Raina believes that you should spend time with your children in turns. Raina lifts them into the air with magic and invites them to play tag. Raina believes that exercise is the best way to tire out children. Ren opens the door and walks out of the room while the children fly through the air. Keen asks if Raina is going back to the castle, and she says she needs some air. Raina suddenly realizes that a strange thought has occurred to her. She gives Kin a pendant, saying that she thought of her when she saw it. Raina says that Keen took very good care of the younger students. Keen thanks Raina from the bottom of her heart for the pendant she gave her. Raina decided to give the pendant to the girl because she didn't know what she liked. Raina leaves, leaving Keen with the gift in her hands, looking at it. Keen thinks she doesn't like the pendant and doesn't know what to tell Raina, who will think she's ungrateful. Raina decides to simply accept the gift with gratitude. Kin stands at the door and she is alone. There is an ominous silence all around. Raina feels that she needs time for herself and that looking after the children is more difficult. Raina notices Kebenriak sitting and watching the meteor shower. Raina calls out to Kebenriak and he appears to us in all his glory. Raina asks how long he has been sitting there and he says it has been a long time. We are shown the night sky and the castle, which rises majestically. Raina asks Kerry if he wants to go for a walk. He is happy. Raina and Kebenriak walk along the ground, enjoying the meteor shower. Raina creates a soap bubble in which she and Kebenriak look out over the meadows. Raina asks Kebenriak if he likes it here, and he says yes because of the master. Raina slyly asks him if he likes the village, and he says yes. Raina tells Kerry that if he wants, he can see even more of the world. When Kebenriak asks if she will be in this world, Raina says no, and Kebenriak wants to know why. Raina believes that one day Kebenriak will get married, and he will have no time for Raina. Kebenriak asks if she likes Hebe, and she replies that she does. Kebenriak says that Raina is still young when she says that she is too old for Hebe. Raina turns to Kebenriak. She now has a new goal. Raina believes that Kebenriak needs to find personal happiness. Raina has set herself the goal of providing her children with a good future, and for this she needs money. She stands at the mines. Renya moves forward. She asks Zikard if it's true about high-quality mana stones. Such a stone makes its owner unhappy. There are 6 of them underground. The mine stood empty for a long time until the emperor in the book gave it to a count, who gave it to the main character. In Haber, Raina asked Zikard for access to the mine information, but it was protected. Renya believes that after Tiernan grows up, she will give away the mine. The book screams that a monster has taken up residence in the mines and tries to dissuade Raina from going there. Zikard yells that the black snake Midra lives here, but Raina doesn't listen. Before us is Midra, a black snake that did not become a dragon. Zikard tells her that Raina has many circles, but that is no reason to face the snake. She does not listen. Raina is glad that information about her is not reflected in Zikard's notes. Zikard is angry. He thinks that the limit is 6 or 5 circles for a magician. Zikard wonders what makes Raina so self-confident. He tells Raina that his magic reaches 3 circles, and he is not ready for battle. Raina asks in surprise if he was joking about the 3 circles. He says yes. Raina approaches with a magical barrier that won't be easy to break. Raina tenses up, easily removing the magical barrier. A giant gaping hole stretches out in front of Raina and Zikard. Raina grabs Zikard and, despite his protests, jumps into the hole. The book screams in horror, anticipating death from the snake that lives here. Before us is a majestic palace located in Hebei. Kebenriak knocks the sword out of the sergeant's hands and he says he surrenders. The guard says that he will now have to work with Kebenriak. The guard says that because of the magic circles, Kebenriak advanced. Kebenriak believes that he will not be able to defeat the Empress anyway. Kebenriak recalls the pleasure with which the Empress spoke to him about power. Kebenriak believes that he must seize the Emperor's crown and start a rebellion. The guard asks Kebenriak not to speak any more about the rebellion against the crown. The guard asks if he really has to go that far. The guard tries to convince Kebenriak that he has enough privileges to rule. The guard is impressed by Kebenriak's determination to protect Raina. His Highness the Prince dreams of more than just rebellion and the defense of Raina. A huge and terrible snake is heading towards Raina, its mouth open. The book says that Raina miscalculated the spell and the Midras are stronger than the dragons. Raina decides to take more serious measures and casts a spell. The snake pounces on the book and it screams that it didn't have time to teleport. Raina causes the volcano to explode and the hot magma engulfs the snake. The snake drowns in the lava that flows and the book thinks it is dragon magic. The book asks if Raina is an 8th circle mage, and she is glad that the book understood this. Raina is determined to find the stones, which are somewhere here. The book says that as a grimoire, he finally realized something. The book will have to crawl on the ground to find the stones, and he dreamed of a mistress like Raina. Raina believes that as soon as she finds the stones, she will treat her students to something tasty. Raina appears before Keen and Kebenriak, who are tired of waiting for her. Kebenriak asks what happened and why Raina is so happy. The chef approaches them and serves a wonderful dinner to the children. The frame shows food that is so delicious it makes your mouth water. The boss asks if Raina wants anything else, and she says no. The children say that these too will eat their fill, looking at us on their plates. Kin timidly asks what's going on with the magic book and eats. Raina believes that because of her power, the book began to receive heated comments and had to be sealed. But thanks to the grimoire, she managed to find all the magic stones. Raina believes that she can restore Heibei's finances with the stones, even if it's just 5 out of 6. If they find out that Raina used the stones, all the nobility will turn against her. Raina asks if the kids want to go out and they say yes, but Kin doesn't really want to. Raina says that there is no need to go for a walk and asks Kin what her plans are. She replies that she decided to teach children. Raina is upset to see that Kin is spending a lot of time with the children. Renya asks if Kin is overexerting herself, and she says no. Kin sadly believes that she is raising children with good intentions. Renya tells Carrie that since Kin has things to do, they will go for a walk together. Kebenriak blushes and is beside himself. Everything looks like a date. They continue their meal at the table in complete silence. Keen looks down in shame. She doesn't know what to say. We are shown Keen, who is sitting in a storage room and reading something. Children come up to her, and she sadly realizes that she wanted to be alone. Raina thinks that Keen is overdoing it, and that she teaches too many children. Keen sits the children down next to each other and is about to read them a book. She is, after all, a child worthy of her master's admiration. The sale of magic stones is carried out through the Association of Magicians. So the heroes come to the building of one of the houses of the Association of Magicians. The agency that Raina contacts looks peculiar. A bar counter appears in front of the heroes, and behind it is a man who says that he is glad to welcome them. Raina asks for a pink carnation, a gentleman's top hat, and an old pumpkin. The man invites the heroes to follow him, saying that he has everything. A man opens a door with the help of boxes, moving them. The wall opens in front of them, and Kebenriak is amazed at what is inside. The man invites them inside, and they agree. Raina and Kebenriak head down the dark corridor. Raina opens the doors for her with interest and walks down the corridor. Suddenly, a man stands up in front of her, and Raina looks at him. The owner of the Daisy agency, Dale Maverick, looks quite young. Kebenriak is ready to protect Raina as Dale plays with the eyeball. Kebenriak warily asks Dale, who has an artificial eye, who he is. Dale introduces himself to Kebenriak, who looks at him in surprise. Dale says that Kebenriak took a rather powerful patron with him. Dale tells Raina that they haven't seen each other for a long time. For Raina, this is the first meeting. Raina says they need to get down to business and shows him the crystal. Dale uses his magic eye to look closely at the crystal. Kebenriak asks Raina what he is doing, and she says that she is appraising the magic crystal. Maverick is known for his eye of value, an eye that allows one to see the value of stones. The man asks where they got such a curiosity, but having achieved nothing, promises to sell it at auction. Maverick looks at the stones and asks if there are 3 of them. Raina says yes. Raina wearily asks him to offer the required price, and he is ready to draw up a contract. Maverick says that this is their first meeting, and she has no business with him. Raina is wary. Newcomers are not welcomed here and are kicked out. Maverick asks Raina if she didn't see the sign on the door. He snaps his fingers and says no outsiders allowed. The ground beneath Kebenriak's feet trembles and glows with a golden glow. Kebenriak suddenly realizes that nothing of the sort happened. Raina tells Maverick not to use that kind of magic on her charge again. But rules are rules, and Raina asks Kebenriak to leave. Kebenriak is pouting. He is upset with Raina and wonders why they are taking so long. The merchant carries boxes and asks Kebenriak if they drove him away. He says that he left on his own. Kebenriak believes that if something is done to Rain, he will paint Maverick's eye. The vendor asks if Kebenriak would like something hot. Suddenly, the familiar figure of the hero of the Gardens of Vertigania appears in the doorway. Tiernan asks if they have any oil to clean armor. Tiernan is asked to sit and wait while the seller brings the oil, and he sits down next to Kebenriak. Kebenriak and Tiernan glance at each other. Kebenriak eventually begins to look at the crystal ball. Tiernan notices his crystal ball and wants to take a closer look. Tiernan doesn't understand why Kebenriak is staring at him so intently. Then Kebenriak makes a scary face, looking into the ball. Tiernan asks why he is making such a face, and thinks that he is only reacting to Raina and that they should stay away from him. Maverick starts to say something, but Raina interrupts him and demands a contract. Maverick says she managed to have a child while she was away. The master says that he didn't believe that she was teaching the fourth prince, and she took up with him. Maverick believes that Raina has children, which is what she says. Maverick gives her a contract. The terms have changed. Raina studies the contract carefully and says that confidentiality is her most important trait. Both contracts are sealed with a special seal, so there is no reason to worry about their reliability. Raina says that 50% commission does not suit her. Maverick says that if he reduces the commission, they will have nothing to live on. Raina didn't even know that Maverick wasn't doing well. Maverick bargains with Raina, promising her a 9% commission. Raina says that then she will find another agency, and Maverick is not happy with this. Maverick offers her a 5% commission, calling Raina a scumbag. Maverick thinks Raina is a dangerous player and asks how she knows about finances. Raina tells him to make changes to their contract. Maverick refuses, saying he won't do it. Raina is offered a new contract. Maverick is not going to give up. Renya offers Maverick a vial of dark magic, and he is shocked. Later, it turns out that the vial does not contain dark magic, but an antidote for the Emperor. Maverick asks how she expects him to get into the palace. Raina says that he has forgotten his true identity. Dale Maverick is not only the owner of the agency, but also a marquise. Renya thinks that Maverick is just a robber with his bets. The Marquis is amused and says that she is being very harsh with the Marquis. Meanwhile, Kebenriak and Tiernan are in the same shop. Tiernan is glad to have found the book he had been looking for so long. The protagonist looks at Kebenriak with apprehension. Tiernan wonders what that ball is in Kebenriak's hands. The boy finally asks Kebenriak about the ball in his hands. Kebenriak is silent and looks at Tiernan very gloomily. Tiernan returns his gaze with an equally intense one. Tiernan thinks he is somehow connected to Raina, and this is a look to survive. Tiernan wonders why he remembered Raina, while Kebenriak deals with the orb. Tiernan falls silent and closes his eyes with a pained expression. Tiernan tells us what happened to him after escaping from the slave traders. Tiernan comes to the prince's camp to become a mercenary. People bow before him. They need a leader to survive in Tunera. That day, he realized that there were people who suffered more than Tiernan could have imagined. But in the Vertigania Empire, the one who stood in his way was Lady Raina Hart. To defeat this witch, he needs to gather more mercenaries. Those who did not give up share the determination of the young prince. Tiernan believes that everything will go smoothly for him, and that's good. If everything goes smoothly, then the person dear to him will look him in the eyes. Tiernan thinks how interesting he will look when he grows up. Maybe it will be easier for him to contact the mysterious sorceress. Tiernan looks with disdain at Kebenriak, who is interfering with his plans. He rudely asks who gave the magic ball to Kebenriak. Suddenly, the door opens and Kebenriak and Tiernan are seen together. They are found by a seller who says that the oil is very old. Will it suit the buyers? Tiernan asks how much he owes and he says 1.5. Raina says she cleared things up with Maverick and he's glad she stopped by. The seller tells him that a strange customer came in and he sold him oil. Maverick is surprised why it is the regular client and not the agency's. Maverick is upset and thinks the sign needs some work. Raina asks Kebenriak how long he waited and he says not long. Raina is happy that they are now rich and will no longer have to go hungry. She asks what he was doing while she was gone, and Kebenriak replies that he was helping a client. Raina is surprised that he helped the customer and served him. Kebenriak tries to remember what Tiernan looked like, but he can't. Raina demands an explanation from the seller, and he says that Kebenriak simply helped him. Raina is horrified. She missed something important, and something could change. Raina is afraid that something might have happened since Kebenriak was behind the counter. Raina is depressed. She can't believe it. They want to calm her down. Maverick tells them to have Raina and Kebenriak come again. Raina believes that since his finances are in order, he will be able to support the children. Raina believes that she stopped Zikard and prevented Kerry's tragedies. Everything is going according to plan. Now Raina has only one thing left to do. She is planning something grand. Raina sits in a tree and watches the activity below. The original plot is developing as it should. Tiernan is busy with the refugees. He happily says that he is going to the nearest refugees. Suddenly, Tiernan falls to the ground, flying straight into the mud. Raina uses magic to grab Tiernan and he hangs in the air. Raina thinks that everything is fine with Tiernan and she better leave before she is noticed. A magical purple light is reflected and Raina dissolves into thin air. Tiernan is on all fours and the refugees are asking how he is. Tiernan wonders what just happened to him and what it was. Tiernan thinks that he is just falling when someone mysterious helps him. One of the refugees calls out to him, and Tiernan says he'll be right there. Tiernan thinks he imagined it and goes away. We are shown Duke Asper's castle at night. It is beautiful. Vivian is sleeping in the bed and she is dreaming, but someone is hanging over her. Raina looks at Vivian and says she's glad she's okay. Looking at her, Raina worries that she always slept like this and that her guardian is adding something to it. Raina believes that she will simply observe the actions of her guardian. Suddenly, Vivian wakes up and says that she sees a butterfly. Raina is shocked. Raina thinks that everything is bad and she has let her guard down. Raina thinks that she has become completely soft and that Vivian had a bad dream. Raina thinks it's time to erase Vivian's memory, although she doesn't really want to. Vivian takes her hand and asks if Raina is a butterfly fairy. Vivian says she read in an ancient book that butterfly fairies visit houses. Vivian says excitedly that she is glad she met the real her, and Raina decides to play along. Raina approaches Vivian and looks straight at her. She is in shock. She takes Raina's hand and asks her not to leave her. Vivian asks if Raina is a fairy, and she decides to play along so that she doesn't make a fuss. Raina tells her that she is right and creates something with magic. Raina says that they might be heard and suggests that Vivian go outside. Vivian is happy that Raina decided to play along and be a fairy. Raina takes Vivian to the garden where they see butterflies. Vivian says that Raina is a fairy, and if an adult catches a fairy, her wings will fall off. Raina asks if Vivian has trouble sleeping and she says no. Raina thinks it's weird about the seeds by Vivian's bed, and Vivian is catching butterflies. Raina distracts Vivian and she looks straight at Raina. Raina asks Vivian to send her letters if she has a problem. Raina strokes Vivian's head and she smiles and says nicely. Raina is worried about Vivian and wonders why they are slipping her seeds. Raina says it's getting chilly and suggests she come back. Vivian says, upset, that she didn't expect it was time to go back already. Vivian asks Raina to meet up sometime, and she doesn't know what to say. Raina asks her to cover herself with a blanket, and Vivian asks her to be careful. Raina disappears in a pillar of purple flame, leaving Vivian alone. She glances suspiciously at the seeds of the dried fruit near her bed. Vivian remembers her stepmother leaving tree bark seeds and asking her not to touch them. The stepmother clearly lied to Vivian, and she senses her stepmother's lies. The stepmother clearly lied to Vivian, and she senses her stepmother's lies. It dawns on Vivian that she has been used all this time. The action moves back 5 years to Vivian's mansion. Vivian meets her stepmother, who timidly cuddles up to her father. Vivian timidly greets her stepmother, introducing herself by name. She also tells Vivian in response that she is a very sweet girl. This was her first meeting with her stepmother, which went well, to the delight of her father. Seeing her kindness, Vivian believed that her days would be filled with happiness, but it was not to be. Another Cinderella. We are shown the Duchy of Aspera at night, against a backdrop of stars. The stepmother and Raina sit surrounded by women and pray. The stepmother and Raina sit surrounded by women and pray. The priest says that tomorrow there will be a celebration of St. Milena's Day. He says that this time the celebration will be wonderful, as his wife Simone will join them. We are shown the inside of the mansion, and Vivian's father asks for his blessing. One of the women approaches Vivian and asks her permission to take her to the room. As Vivian leaves, she hears something behind her. It is her father talking to her stepmother. Simone says she wants to check out the custom machines. She tells her husband that it is not a burden to her, and Vivian's father allows her to go. Simone stands there sullenly, and Vivian notices that Simone is still unhappy. Vivian asks if the storage room is on the wrong side. Simone is shocked. Vivian approaches the woman, who tells her that she is curious. The woman says that she never ceases to be touched when she looks at Vivian. Simone is good at housekeeping and is kind to her servants. The woman who is Vivian's nanny likes Simone. Vivian says this corridor leads the other way. Vivian drank a lot of water at night and she goes to see her stepmother. Vivian's stepmother goes somewhere and Vivian is worried about where. Vivian wonders where her mother could have gone at such a late hour. Vivian wonders where her mother could have gone at such a late hour. In front of us are wide doors that close behind Simone. Vivian wonders why Simone went into this room. As a child, Vivian found her stepmother's nightly visit strange. Vivian believes that it will not be a breach of the relationship if she spies on her. It is not for nothing that they say that shared secrets unite people. Vivian goes to bed. She wants to be closer to her mother and believes in tomorrow's holiday. Vivian's father suggests they enjoy the meal first and meet in the evening for the feast. Vivian's father asks Simone where she goes at night. Suddenly, Vivian's father becomes ill. Vivian approaches her father worriedly. Vivian's father waves it off and says that everything is fine. He is having another attack. Simone asks worriedly if everything is okay, and he says that he has been suffering from migraines lately. Vivian's father wants to sort things out, and Simone asks him to see a doctor. Vivian's father says that Simone is so caring. Vivian is worried about her dad. Simone asks Vivian what she wanted to ask her. Vivian thinks that there is no point in disturbing her stepmother, who is currently dealing with her father. However, the situation makes Vivian nervous, and she keeps an eye on her stepmother. We are shown a city square that is clearly filled with people. We are shown a city square that is clearly filled with people. Then the action moves to the gloomy mansion where Vivian lives. Vivian stands at the door of the mansion. She is about to ring the doorbell. Vivian wonders what she did all day while she was gone. Vivian notices a group of boxes inside, neatly stacked on top of each other. Vivian lifts one of the drawer lids and looks at the contents. Inside the box are human entrails. What a disgusting thing. Vivian closes the drawer in horror, and she hears footsteps inside the room. Vivian asks in horror who is in the room. Is it really her stepmother? Vivian is scared. She sees something very creepy in the room. Some gentleman is swallowed up by some strange monster. Vivian asks her stepmother how to save the butler. She says what she is doing here. Vivian is scared. She sees something very creepy in the room. Simone says with a grim expression that Vivian saw everything. Simone watches calmly as the butler is devoured by a terrible creature. Simone calmly wipes the blood from Vivian's cheek, who is horrified. Simone tells Vivian not to be afraid of anything. She says that Vivian had a terrible dream, and she stands there in horror when she should be running and calling for help. After that incident in the room, Vivian's life changed forever. Vivian's father has also changed. He shouts that he was betrayed by an acquaintance. Vivian's father stands with the servants. Something is happening in the room. Vivian's father yells at his daughter about why she is there and whether her classes are over. Vivian realizes that her next class is now, and her father is yelling at her. He shouts at Vivian that he lived his life in stupid zeal, wasting it on his daughter. Vivian cries and looks at her beloved father with pain in her eyes. The nanny tries to protect her, but Vivian's father throws everyone out. After that incident at the mansion, Vivian was bombarded with numerous lessons from her father. The nanny says that Vivian is having a very hard time and she is crying, asking to be taken to her room. Meanwhile, Simone happily walks past Vivian and her nanny. Simone looks at Vivian with a smirk. She defeated her. The nanny takes Vivian away, telling her to be okay. Vivian cries, left alone in the room with herself. Vivian notices that her father has changed, and she doesn't understand the reason for it. Vivian believes that her father is under the control of her stepmother's evil spell because of the tea. Vivian is afraid that if she tells, she will die like that butler. The nanny is on Vivian's side, but she is afraid that she will lose her. There are no adults in this house she can turn to. Vivian looks at the box that stands in her room. Vivian wants to escape from this nightmare. She doesn't want to take pills. Vivian believes that her stepmother has been poisoning her, and she is worried. My mother's voice won't stop in my head. Suddenly Raina is in cahoots with Simone. Vivienne sits sadly, having a difficult choice to trust the fairy. Vivienne fears that she is under the spell of the witch who has bewitched her father. Vivienne looks at the bag of tree bark on the table. Vivienne wonders why the witch has been trying to make her sleep lately. The person she sees in her visions may be somehow connected. Vivienne believes that she will be happy with Tiernan one day. Vivienne realizes that she misses Tiernan very much. The building is decorated with high towers with pointed spires and crenellated walls, which gives it a medieval appearance. Raina walks through the castle and hums some cheerful song. The guards tell her that Raina is clearly in a good mood today. The image shows a small village located in a picturesque natural area. Raina is looking forward to her finances soon being replenished. Apart from Kerry, everything else plays out as in the original story. It seems that Vivian is hiding something, and it worries Raina. Is this connected to the carriage accident from Vivian's past? Vivian believes that even cool magicians like her cannot know everything. Children seem naive and cheerful, but even they have their secrets. It's difficult, but the role of an adult is such that they need to pay more attention to children. At this time, Raina is unable to report child abuse. She decided to prevent the tragedy of Kebenriak from happening in the first place. Raina believes that it is high time for the original move to go into battle. The guard looks at Raina and asks if she really feels well. 8 years later, we are shown a Hebe that has changed. We are shown Dale Maverick, who is now the head of Daisy's branch. 8 years later, we are shown a Hebe that has changed. Maverick, who was chasing pleasure, now visits some backwater. 8 years ago, there was an auction at which Maverick presented his unique find. But not all people believed that he had a high-quality Mana Stone. The Mana Stone is missing, and Maverick is at a loss as to where it could have gone. Maverick is forced to tell Raina Hart about his failure. Raina says he simply has to make it up to her. Being the head of Daisy's department is like being a beggar, and Maverick pays for it with his own life. The auctioneer, Maverick believes, will soon start passing off stolen goods as his own. So for 8 years, Maverick was Raina's right-hand man. The maid tells him that Raina is in the office and leaves him. Maverick knocks on the door and then timidly peers around it. He wants to talk to Raina. Raina and the grown-up Kebenriak are sitting in the living room and reading a book. Raina looks at Maverick and asks how long he's been here. Maverick smiles tensely, disgusted by this cute picture. He believes that Kebenriak spoils Raina too much, who behaves with him like a loving couple. Raina asks Kebenriak if he is there when he enters the chambers. Raina apologizes and says she needed to talk to Maverick. Kebenriak covers her with a cloak and says that it is quite cold now. Raina happily thinks that there is no student like Kebenriak. Raina asks Kerry if he has grown too tall in recent years. She says the Kerry she remembers was very small. Kebenriak says he now has to lean down to meet her eyes. In the original novel, Kerry is described as a charming villain. Raina excitedly asks when Kerry got so tall. Raina thinks she should learn age-adding magic. Maverick once mentioned this spell to Raina. Maverick reproached Raina for looking like Kerry's older sister. Maverick doesn't know that Raina is half dragon, which is why she's preserved like this. Kebenriak tries to calm Raina down and urge her not to listen to Maverick. Raina believes that her solid appearance would not have prevented her from protecting Kebenriak. Kebenriak is offended by the fact that Raina considers him a child who needs to be looked after. Kebenriak smiles, and his smile does not bode well. Raina wonders why Kebenriak looks so upset. She cheerfully asks if he would like to reveal one of her important secrets. Raina sits and reads a book, her face looking very thoughtful. She tells Kebenriak that she is half dragon, and he calmly responded to one of the secrets of the sorceress Raina Hart. She thought it would shock him, but he remained calm as a tank. Raina is glad that in the midst of all this madness, Kerry treated her normally. Raina believes that he has realized that Raina's life cannot be easy. Raina believes that while she is in the body of a sorceress, she can start a romance with Kebenriak. Raina smiles tensely, not knowing what to say. Zikard calls out to her and says that they need to talk urgently. He says that he discovered something interesting that might interest her. He asks if she should become Empress of Vertugania. Zikard slyly asks if the head of the Maragritka agency was here. He says the guy has set himself up as the leader and the new emperor. The book shows Raina personal information about Maverick. Zikard says that since he was included on the list of candidates, then everything is bad with the emperor. Raina looks into her magic ball. She knows that the emperor must die in winter. Kebenriak approaches her and distracts Raina from the magic ball. Raina informs him that it seems His Majesty the Emperor is dying. At this time, the Empress's noblewomen burst into her chambers, saying that an army has broken in and it is time to flee. The Empress is perplexed as to who dared to invade the empire. The noblewoman says that the court magicians have gone to His Majesty and she must run. The Empress asks where her soldiers are and is told that many have fallen. The Empress does not understand how the palace guards could lose so easily. She asks why the noblewoman is in the palace like everyone else. She says that the Empress was supposed to be outside today. The Empress looks at her courtiers in horror. The noblewoman has black holes instead of eyes, and she rubs them very furiously. The same thing happens to the other nobles, and the Empress is horrified. At this time, someone approaches the Empress from behind, judging by the shadow. On the floor, we see drops of blood falling from the body of the Empress. The Empress asks why, and she's about to fall to the floor. The Empress falls to the floor while the noblewoman stands before her. Suddenly, the weakened Empress sees familiar purple hair. The Empress dies before the eyes of Raina Hart and Kebenriak. Raina realizes that the imperial bloodshed has begun. Raina is perplexed. The rebellion was supposed to happen in winter, not now. She approaches the body and examines it to see if Raina is too late. Raina realizes that too much energy was spent on teleportation. Kebenriak asks Raina not to look further. Raina tells him that she is perfectly fine and pushes Kebenriak away. Raina wonders what the Empress could have done to deserve such a death. At least a year has passed. Raina examines the dagger. Raina approaches the noblewoman and asks what she could have done. Her eyes return to normal and she begs Raina Hart to save her. The noblewoman madly tells her that a certain woman will read a spell and her son will never leave here. The noblewoman says that the Empress arranged this marriage because she considered her a hindrance to the crown prince. Raina interrogates the noblewoman about who that woman is and asks her to remember all the details. She tries to remember the details, but madness takes hold of her again. Raina is puzzled as to what is going on in this palace. Raina and Kebenriak come out onto one of the palace buildings. Raina believes that the Empress was under the influence of an evil spell. Raina says that events have sped up, and she was going to cast a protective spell on this family. The book tells her that it searched the entire palace, but did not find the Emperor. The Empress, Crown Prince, and Imperial concubine were killed. Raina orders Zikard to find traces of the rest of the Imperial family. But Maverick made it clear that Vivian's father sided with the Emperor. Kebenriak notices that Raina's hand is bloody and decides to examine it. Kebenriak uses his power to heal Raina's wounded arm. Raina asks Kebenriak if he is sad that his family was killed. Kebenriak replies that yes, and she says that they still deserve to die. Kebenriak says he is saddened that someone in his family was hurt. Kebenriak says he is content as long as his master is safe. Raina is surprised that Kebenriak values Raina above all else. Raina throws herself into Kebenriak's arms despite the book. The book tells her that Kebenriak is Lady Hart's knight. Pearson, meanwhile, stands in the blood among the enemy invaders. The white uniform and commander's insignia indicate that Pearson has moved up the steps. Kebenriak asks her why he serves Raina, and she does not know the answer to his question. Suddenly, their eyes meet and he looks straight at Raina. The commander tells Raina that he is leading her through the escape route where the Emperor escaped. Pearson is shocked that Lady Raina and Kebenriak have returned. Pearson believes that he should have justified Lady Raina's wishes. He tells us that during this time, Kebenriak has matured quite a bit. Pearson tells them they can exit here, pointing to the door in front of them. One of the guards greets him, and Pearson asks where His Majesty is. He introduces Lady Rayna and her ward, Kebenriak, to the guard. The guard tells them that His Majesty is resting inside and lets them go ahead. In the chambers, they find the Emperor, who is clearly wounded and lying on the bed. The Emperor rises with difficulty and calls out Lady Rayna's name. Rayna appears before the Emperor and greets him, but is shouted at that she is unworthy to be there. The second prince greets Rayna rudely. They got into trouble and he is not happy to see her. The second prince yells that if Rayna hadn't done anything, nothing would have happened. He screams that Rayna must pay in full for everything. Kebenriak hits His Majesty, dealing him a serious blow. Rayna asks Kerry not to do that again when she talks to him. This is the first time Rayna has seen Kerry with such a calm expression on her face.